Nothing sounds more like Yule than homemade decorations. I did intend on keeping ours simple, but Nimue wrote a name in cloves and Sarah wrote Cat Noir, so they really went all out here and made some fantastic pomanders. The orange represents the sun and the returning light, and the cloves provide protection over the dark half. And if you've watched my prior videos, you know that the Celts used to split the year in two, the dark half and the light half. At one point, they believed to ward off illness and disease. And you can choose a variety of oils, herbs and spices. Dried pomanders not only smell nice, but are said to also keep any bugs away. Nimue wanted to use Christmas ribbon on ours instead of pagan-y ribbon that I had. The original pomanders didn't include oranges. They were made by moulding resins or spices into a shape resembling an apple and were then carried upon the person. Due to poverty at the time, this was actually a common practice for illness, and overpowering smells would abound. Strong scented fruit and herbs, many of which are antiviral, antibacterial and antifungal, were chosen. Sanitation in that time period was lacking, and even meadowsweet was sprinkled on floors for similar purposes. And this was actually on the floors of their homes, because a lot of homes back then had a mud floor. And making a pomander was serious business. People took pride in their pomanders. And pomanders are a Yuletide favourite here. In the Middle Ages, some designs actually became very elaborate. The name comes from the French palm, and they were sometimes called apples of amber. In the Middle Ages, they started to make more elaborate versions with metal-like cages covered in intricate, elaborate designs, and they would stuff them with sweet-smelling ingredients. The amber grease they use is not the amber you're thinking of. It was actually a waxy substance from the digestive system of sperm whales, and it's still used to this day in cosmetics. They eventually became Christian keepsakes, yet peasants couldn't afford them. So folk like us made their own using fruit and herbs and spices. And these would even be given as gifts, and the designs can be as intricate or as simple on them as you wish. But originally, the herbs were moulded and stuffed inside these cages. And I've completely let the children go wild here and use their imagination, because obviously that's the better intention behind things. And they didn't fail to surprise me. Nimue managed to write a name, and Sarah managed to write Cat Noir in one of hers. These oranges will gradually dry out, and the cloves will help preserve them. However, I will share a recipe later that they would have traditionally been rolled into. A simpler version of oranges stuffed with whole cloves and string on pretty ribbons and sometimes anointed with oils actually exist in archives. Back then, oranges were, however, a food only available to the rich, so finding one in a stocking was actually a symbol of abundance and good fortune. But it is, however, hard to pinpoint a definitive original beginning for pomanders, or when they became associated with Yule and even witchcraft. However, when we do look further back in history, we know that one of the traditions of Yule was to actually decorate the tree with dried fruit as well, and anything that would symbolise the sun would have been used, because that symbolises the return of the light. So the preservation recipe in the archives is cinnamon, ground cloves, nutmeg, allspice and powdered orris root. It would be left in this mix for over a week, turning it daily. And again, these herbs have been confirmed by studies in science to actually possess all those properties they wanted. The antibacterial, the antiviral, the antifungal. So it looks like our ancestors were not that far off the mark after all. And science is just starting to catch up. Let me know if you make pomanders this season.